we were expecting a deceleration of growth, but the fact is that this deceleration is not as strong as we expected in spring. So actually our new forecasts have been revised upwards for the majority of countries of the region, especially as far as the countries in Central Europe are concerned, so the new EU member states from Central and Eastern Europe. And the main reason for that is the surprisingly strong export performance. So on the one hand, it is true that there has been a decline in growth rates in the euro area, and especially in Germany, so the growth has decelerated markedly. But this has not affected the export performance of countries of Central and Eastern Europe, at least so far. So what we have seen, or what we were observing in the first quarter of 2019, was a very strong export growth recorded for the majority of countries in Central Europe. The main driver of growth is domestic demand. So it's private consumption and investments. The private consumption benefits very strongly from the rising wages, which are in turn due to deepening labor shortages. So labor shortages are becoming increasingly important, increasingly strong in countries of Central Europe, and this improves the negotiating power of wage earners, and this drives wages. That is one factor. And another factor is the inflow of EU transfers. This is a very important factor which supports the investments growth. In the Western Balkan countries, investments are also becoming increasingly important. And here we are talking not only about the private investment inflows, such as, for instance, foreign direct investment, but also infrastructure investments, for instance, within the framework of the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And finally, as far as the CIS countries are concerned, here we observe a very strong expansion of consumer credit. So basically, this is the main factor which underpins consumption growth in the CIS countries. I think the main risk, especially for the countries of Central and Eastern Europe, the new EU member states from Central and Eastern Europe, is the possible deterioration of external environment. So I've mentioned that so far the impact of the slowdown in the euro area on the region has been very limited, but this will probably change if there is further deterioration in external environment, especially if the protectionist trends are on the rise. And here I would explicitly mention first the possible introduction of high import duties on imports of cars to the United States, and second, the impact of Brexit. And this is important because most of these countries are small open economies, so they are strongly dependent on the external environment, and they are especially dependent on the developments in the car production, which is a very important industry in these countries. This is one risk. Another risk applies specifically to countries which are in a state of overheating, and this is especially Romania. So in Romania is really the only country where overheating has been in place already for a number of years. And it has been accompanied by rising imbalances, especially on the external front. So this is a risk factor as far as Romania is concerned. And finally, I've mentioned that there is a strong credit expansion, a strong expansion of consumer credit in the CIS countries. And this is also a risk factor because, first of all, the pace of this expansion is very strong, and very often these credits are at high interest rates. And for instance, in the case of Russia, this credit expansion takes place against the background of falling real incomes, which is of course a problem for the ability of households to service debts, or may become a problem in the medium and long run.